People throw around the words fair use online like it's some kind of magic legal shield. Relax, it's fair use, it's commentary. I changed it enough. Everybody does it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of creators who think that they're protected by fair use aren't. And by the time they find out, they're dealing with takedown notices, channel strikes, lost monetization, demand letters, or full-blown lawsuits. And here's the really tricky part. Fair use is not a permission system. It is a legal defense. What that means, you don't usually know for certain whether your use qualifies until after there's already a dispute and probably a lawsuit. So in this episode, I want to help you understand what fair use actually is, what it is not, why so many creators misunderstand it, and how to think more strategically before you use somebody else's content in your podcast or YouTube video or social media content, course, live stream, advertising, marketing, those kinds of things. Because here's the thing, the goal is not just to avoid getting sued, it's to build a business that's stable, professional, protected, and built to last. Hey there, welcome to Legit Podcast Pro. I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer. I am an entertainment, media, and business attorney, and with over 3 decades of experience helping entrepreneurs, creators, podcasters, filmmakers, and online businesses protect what they're building. And today, we're talking about one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of creator business, fair use. Now, before we dive in, I want to be crystal clear about something. This episode is for educational purposes. It is not legal advice for your specific situation. Fair use cases are extremely fact-specific. Tiny differences in context can change the analysis dramatically. But the goal for today is to help you think more intelligently and more strategically about the kinds of risks you may be taking. Because one of the biggest mistakes creators make is assuming if I'm not trying to steal something, then I'm safe. Well, unfortunately, that's just not how copyright law works. So fair use is a part of the U.S. copyright law. It's a doctrine that allows limited use of copyrighted material without permission under certain narrow circumstances. The idea behind fair use is that society benefits when people can comment, criticize, teach, report the news, parody, research, and create transformative works. And all of this is against the background of freedom of speech. So fair use exists to balance those two competing interests, the rights of creators to control and profit from their work, and the public interest in allowing that kind of free speech, commentary, education, discussion, and creative expression. But here's the thing. Fair use is not automatic. There is no simple checklist where you automatically win. There's no percentage rule. There's no using less than 10 seconds. That does not magically make something legal, although I hear that myth pretty constantly. There's also no requirement that you give credit and then everything becomes okay. Attribution is good practice, but that alone does not create fair use. You can absolutely infringe copyright while giving full credit, and sometimes that credit becomes a smoking gun in the case against you. And that actually surprises a lot of people. So, courts generally evaluate fair use using 4 factors. Not 1, not 2, all 4. And they're a balancing act that all 4 are weighed together. Factor 1 is the purpose and character of the use. This is where concepts like commentary, criticism, education, parody, and transformative use will come into play. Transformative means that you're adding something meaningfully new and different. New meaning, new message, new context, new insight. So it's not just merely reposting or repackaging. You're not merely reacting with your face in the corner while the original content does most of the work. And courts have increasingly focused on whether the new use is truly transforming the original. The second factor is the nature of the copyrighted work. Using factual material is generally more defensible than if you were using something that was a highly creative work. So, for example, using an excerpt from a news report might be easier to justify than using clips from a feature film or a popular song. The third factor is the amount and substantiality of the portion taken. It's not just about the quantity, it's also about the qualitative side, quality. If you're using the heart of the work, well, that could weigh against fair use, even if the clip you're using itself is very short. And the fourth factor This is one people are very confused about. It's the effect on the market for or value of the original. If your use could substitute for the original, reduce licensing opportunities, or damage the market, that can weigh heavily against fair use. What it doesn't address is whether you're making money from it. It's all about the market for the original. So this factor has become increasingly important in creator economy disputes, especially on YouTube. So let's talk about some myths around fair use, because honestly, a lot of bad legal advice spreads around online. Myth number one: if I credit the creator, I'm protected. No. Giving credit does not eliminate infringement. It does very little to help one way or the other. Now, myth number two: if I'm not making money, then it's fair use. Also false. Commercial use can weigh against fair use, but non-commercial use doesn't mean you're automatically protected. You can absolutely infringe without making a dime. Myth number three: if I changed it a little, it's transformative. Well, not necessarily. Merely adding captions, filters, slight edits, or even reaction shots might not be enough. Courts really look at the substance, not superficial modifications. And myth number four: everybody else is doing it, so it's okay. Well, this is dangerous because what you're often seeing online is what we call survivorship bias. You're seeing the people who haven't gotten caught yet. Not the creators who received takedowns or settled disputes or lost their channels or spent thousands defending their claims or just licensing the material. And remember, the fact that a platform allows something to stay online doesn't mean that it's legally safe. Platforms like YouTube or Spotify, these are not courts. So let's talk about some real-world examples. One famous example is the H3H3 Productions case involving fair use. Ethan and Hilda Klein used clips from another creator's video in order to criticize and comment on it. And in that instance, the court did ultimately rule in favor of fair use. But here's what many creators miss. Even when you win, litigation is expensive, it's stressful, it's time-consuming, and it's disruptive. And I should note, Ethan and Hilda Klein turned things around, and even though they created the sort of flagship case for those reaction videos, they are now suing other creators who made reaction videos on their content, and they're winning in some of those cases. Here's the thing: even when you win, litigation is expensive, it's stressful, it's time-consuming, very disruptive, and fair use is just not the force field that you'd like to think it is. It's just an argument, and sometimes a very expensive argument. Now, we've also seen music rights disputes explode across YouTube, TikTok, the podcasting world, live streaming. People assume that short clips are automatically okay. And some of these platforms kind of perpetuate that because they make it so easy to put music into their shows. The fact of it is, short clips does not mean it's automatically okay. Music licensing is notoriously difficult and an aggressive posture to take. Now, many creators have discovered this only after they've received claims or strikes or had monetization problems. Now, another area that creates that confusion, as I mentioned, is that reaction content. Some reaction content is strongly transformative. Some, though, is basically just redistribution with occasional comments sprinkled in. And courts are increasingly scrutinizing whether creators are genuinely adding value, analysis, commentary, or criticism, or are they simply leveraging somebody else's work for attention? And honestly, that distinction really matters. So let me ask you this. Have you ever avoided using a clip, a song, or an image because you just weren't sure about the legal risk? Or flip it over. Have you ever used something and just sort of hoped for the best? How did that turn out? Let me know in the comments. Because honestly, that kind of uncertainty is really very, very common. And it's one reason why creators need to stop treating legal issues like random afterthoughts. This stuff affects your monetization. It affects your brand safety. It affects your relationships with the platforms, your partnerships, your sponsorships, and ultimately the long-term stability of your creator business. And by the way, inside my Easy Legal for Podcasters course, I go much deeper into these issues, including permissions, licensing, contracts, brand protection, and all the practical legal systems that creators need to get in place if they want to be operating at the utmost professional level. I'll tell you a little more about that in a bit. So, fair use versus permission. Now, this is my recommendation. Whenever reasonably possible, get permission. Seriously, yes. Permission is usually much safer, it's clearer, it's less stressful than relying entirely on fair use. And while it is sometimes inconvenient and it does sometimes cost money and take some effort, when you compare that to having a monetized video taken down, getting a copyright strike, damaging a relationship, or getting demonetized or deplatformed, or just dealing with a legal dispute, well, then it's a no-brainer, especially if your content is tied to your livelihood. So creators really often only think in terms of, can I legally get away with this? But smart business owners also ask, is this operationally smart? Is it worth the risk? Is there another way I can make my point? Are there original assets I could use instead? Or could I license this material? And these are much better questions. So here's a better strategic approach. One of the healthiest shifts that you can make as a creator is stop building your business around borrowed material. Build it on your own ideas, your voice, your expertise, your stories, your analysis, and your intellectual property. Because your original content is an asset. Your systems are assets. Your audience and platform relationships are assets. Your brand is an asset. The more your business depends on other people's copyrighted stuff, the more vulnerable you become. Now, that does not mean you should never quote, never discuss, never analyze, never comment. Of course, you can. That is what free speech is about. But there's a difference between using copyrighted material strategically and responsibly versus building an entire content system that depends heavily on repurposing other people's work. And increasingly, platforms, rights holders, and courts are paying attention to this distinction. So what should you do before you use someone else's material? Well, before you go and incorporate other content into your show, ask yourself, why am I using this? Am I adding real commentary or insight? How much of the original am I using, and is it the heart of the work? Could my use be a substitute for the original? And is there a safer alternative? Like, could I license it? Could I create something original instead? All of these are great questions. And importantly, would I feel comfortable defending this use if I was challenged? If the answer to any of this is I don't know, even if it's but everybody else does it, then you got an issue. That's not a strong strategy. So at the end of the day, fair use is real. It matters. It protects important forms of commentary, education, criticism, and creative expression. But it is also a nuanced, fact-specific, and often misunderstood concept. And one of the smartest things that creators can do is stop relying on internet myths and start thinking strategically about ownership, permissions, licensing, risk management, and long-term business stability. Because professional creators don't just think about what they can post today. They think about what helps them build sustainable businesses tomorrow. And if you want help putting those legal and business systems in place, including the contracts, the guest releases, ownership agreements, permissions, trademarks, and all the foundational legal protections that creators need, you really owe it to yourself to check out Easy Legal for Podcasters. And right now, we're running a promotion at easylegalforpodcasters.com. And listen, if you found this episode helpful, I hope you'll subscribe, you'll share it with other creators, and leave a comment. I'm grateful to you for watching. Thank you so much, and I will see you again next time. So stay creative and stay legit.